Okay, good evening, ladies. Thank you for coming out. We are going to study this week's Parasha, Behaalotecha, and I brought some really good sources and some great ideas that we're going to discuss together. And I know for sure that it's going to uplift us. You hear something? Yes, okay. So I would like to dedicate the shiur to Leilu Nishmat, the father of a very dear friend of mine who just passed away last week. On Monday night, Tuesday was the Shiva, the 7 days. Mr. Chaim Papaguris ben Mazal Tov, may his neshama have an aliyah. And then lehavdil, I would like to dedicate this shiur as well to the refuah shalema of Shoshana's sister, Drora bat Esther, and as well for the refuah shalema of the Tinok ben Tova Gitel, Shlomo ben Fega, Yoshua Zelig ben Rivka Beila Yenta, Sarah Freidel bat Rezel, Rafael Shlomo ben Galia Vered, Chava Malka bat Esther, Miriam bat Yehudit, Ruth bat Sarah, Tzion ben Dina. Any other names for refuah shalema? You could just think about it. Yes. He's mentioned? Yes, mentioned. Anybody else? Well, you could just have them in mind. Okay, so here we go. So, like I say every week, every parsha has so much depth and so much that we could learn, and I want to share with you. We had the privilege, my husband and my family, my sons, to learn with Rabbi David Menashe Zichronot Tzadik Livracha. We used to learn he came to Montreal many times, and we heard him, and then we had the zchut to go to Israel, and we learned firsthand from him, and he recently passed away almost a year and a few months ago, and he gave over very deep Torah. Because of his background, he was a Baal Tshuva like we all are. But what was very particular about him was that he was a very big scientist. He worked at the Vatican. They asked him to come to work at the Vatican. And he merited to see some of the treasures that were stolen from the Beit HaMikdash. And he was not observant at that time, and he started questioning things. And because he was he had a very brilliant mind, he did an incredible tshuva, and he found connections and information, chokhmah, that we all benefited so much from. So I remember this parsha that he taught us, that he gave over, that there is about the menorah. So in this week's parsha, we see that Aaron, HaKohen HaGadol, has the honor and the privilege to light the menorah. He didn't have a task before, like the Levi'im did, to bring certain things to the Mishkan, and he felt very saddened by that. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said to him, don't worry, this function that you have to light the menorah is very profound, and you will do it all the time, and your contribution to the Mishkan is much greater than anything that anybody else has given to us. So now, we're going to look first at the simple explanation of lighting the menorah. We know that the menorah had 7 branches, not like the Chanukiah that has 8 plus the Shamash. This had 7 branches. And at a simple understanding, the 7 represent the 7 days of the week. And they also represent the 7 emotional attributes. So those are the part of the Sfirot which we count during the Omer, right? So it's Chesed and Gevura and Tiferet and Netzach and Hod and Yesod and Malchut. Those are the 7 attributes, and they as well are represented in the menorah on the 7 branches. Another very important point about the 7 days of the week, the middle branch, if you will, in the menorah depicts Shabbat. And from here we know, and we always talk about it, that Shabbat is Mikor Kol HaBerachot. And it's said that the three branches on both sides, are facing inwards. They face the inside middle branch. And we learn from that the 3 days before Shabbat get their bracha from Shabbat, and the 3 days after Shabbat as well get their bracha from Shabbat. So the center of the week and the center blessing is dependent on Shabbat. Okay, but now let's look. We're taught in Proverbs 20:27. It's stated, man's soul is the lamp of God. It's a lamp of God. So this means to say that the soul is a part of and is connected to God. But we understand that in order to benefit from this connection, perhaps we need a switch that we must find and turn on in order for that connection to be solid. And the Baal Shem Tov proclaimed that every Jew, without exception, has this switch. That's why you know that the Chassidut values every Jew. It doesn't matter what they do or don't do. It doesn't matter how they look. It's enough that their mother was Jewish. And this is very powerful. It's a very, very powerful notion. And he says that everyone has this switch and they just need to find it and turn it on. This is so powerful. Now, in this Parsha, God instructs Aaron to fire up the lamps, turn on the menorah, light it up. And here we see that finding the switch and igniting the fiery love of God may lie dormant in some souls. And it needs to be turned on. Now, every person, not just leaders or rabbis or teachers, are responsible to light up another Jew. We all have the obligation to share any Torah knowledge that we know, or to light up another Jew, to find the good point in them, to mention it to them, to lift them up. We all have this obligation. We never know. Something we could say may make that connection, may turn on the switch and allow that feeling that the person will feel to want to connect, that feeling to realize they are a part of God. And perhaps it only takes one word to open up that connection. And it's very powerful. I want to also bring in another deep level. A level that I did learn from Rabbi David Menashe, but as well through my chavruta when I learned Rabbi Nachman of Breslev's Torah that I learned with Mora Hinda Sheva Lieberman. Wait, how cute. Look at that baby. So very good to start them to listen to Divrei Torah at such a baby, beautiful age. Baruch Hashem. So sweet, yes. And that's a lovely way to make sure that switch is on. So another way to look at the 7 apertures, yes, is, thank you, is to see that these 7 candles also represent the 7 openings that we have in our face. And these are our 2 eyes, our 2 ears, our 2 nostrils, and our mouth. These 7 openings, they protect and they feed our minds. It's very, 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 very powerful. I want to, before I go to the next point that Rabbi David says, I want us to see that there's a big picture here. And the big picture is to get a greater understanding of everything in the world. So what we really want, what we strive for, what we hunger for is da'at. That's understanding. That's knowledge. True da'at addresses our purpose in life and links us to our source, to the Creator. Because you're never fully satisfied if you don't get that part of the picture. So we need to know, what are we doing here? And our sages tell us that the lack of da'at, the lack of understanding, is what gives us suffering. I had a conversation in the car with a lovely lady today. And she said to me, sometimes I feel the pressure of the time running out. And sometimes I feel the heaviness of the responsibility of perhaps elderly parents, perhaps even our family members, our children, grandchildren, and the years are passing by. And when you get to a certain stage in life, the years seem like they're passing by faster. Now the truth is, as time passes, like time passes from the beginning of time to the end of time. But our perception of it changes. When we're really young, we feel like we have all our life ahead of us, and we keep saying, oh, I can't believe I'm only 15. I want to be 25. I want to drive my own car. I want to make all my own decisions. I don't want to have to listen to what mommy and daddy say. But then, when we get to I don't even know what age it starts. Is it 50? Is it 60? Is it 70? And we're thinking, wow, more than half my life has passed. What's life all about? Have I done everything I want to do? Have I done everything I need to do? We start asking these big questions. Now the Gemara tells us that if you have da'at, knowledge, understanding, then you lack nothing. But if you lack da'at, you have little to nothing. This is very profound, ladies. Little to nothing. If you could have everything in the world, but if you don't have da'at, you're missing stuff. You're missing the important stuff. And da'at brings with it satisfaction and humility, because it's connected to understanding the purpose of life. There are moments in our life that we experience an enlightenment, a moment of clarity, like maybe when we were at the Kotel and we stood there and we realized, wow, this must be the center of the universe, because I'm feeling something so awesome. I can't explain it, but all I want to do is pray. And our sages tell us that it is the center vortex of the world, where the Kotel is. And it is the porthole, if you will, the portal to Shamayim. And actually, we saw a beautiful film that depicted this, that all the prayers that we make, or other Jews make, or for that matter, anybody makes, anywhere in the world, travels all the way to Jerusalem and all the way to the Kotel. And from there it goes up to Shamayim. Imagine that. That's so beautiful. So powerful. So that's just one moment of enlightenment. But until the day that God will reveal himself, and there will be a dot of Hashem complete that will cover the whole earth, which is what we understand as Yemei Mashiach, which is what we're waiting for. Until then, we can and need to actively bring in our own Mashiach now. And how do we do this? We want to give birth to new understanding. That's why we come out and learn. That's why we come to the challah bakes. That's why Shoshana asks me to give a little Dvar Torah to elevate that moment. That's why we learn on Wednesday nights. We did throughout COVID, even on Zoom, even in the backyards of our friends. We didn't stop learning. We felt like if the world is going crazy, and who knows if it's coming to an end, well, let's just get together and learn. Because that's something we know is an anchor. And so there's another beautiful pasuk that we can learn from. And it says, Chochmat Adam Ta'ir Panav. And what does that mean? It means that Chochmah, that means knowledge, lights up the face of the person. And we know, because even Hollywood got it, that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain after being there for 40 nights and 40 days alone with Hashem, learning. He was that portal who brought down all this knowledge. He came down, he was glowing. His face was so lit up that people felt they couldn't even look at him. There was so much light. And light brings us a vision, right? Like we could see things in the light. In the darkness, we don't see. Like the darkness makes us like, we're scared because we don't see, we don't understand. But the light gives us clarity. So when we learn Torah, we add clarity in our minds and we create a light on our face. And people recognize, oh, I know Mercedes is learning Torah. Look how brilliant she looks. I know that. Sometimes, yeah. If not, we'll put the luminous. You see, that's in style now, right? That luminous look. Everybody wants that. The glow. But that glow can be an inner glow. Should be an inner glow. I still put a little of it on the outside. But you have to work on the inside. Okay, so I love the way my Mora Hinda Sheva Lieberman explained this. Sometimes we might lack some chokhmah. I don't understand this area. But God formed us from back to front. And what we need sometimes is to backtrack to move forward. And I heard someone, and I'm trying to think, where did I hear this? Yes, someone sent me a beautiful clip on Instagram, and it was Rav Tweetwee that said this. Sometimes people say, I can't get it, I'm stuck, I can't move forward. Or I'm slipping, I'm moving backwards. I'm not keeping everything I learned. I'm not doing everything. And he gives the example of an athlete. And he says to the person, I think you're an athlete. You look like an athlete to me. He goes, yes. He goes, if I asked you to jump on the table, 2 feet up, can you do it? He says, yes, I can do it. He says, can you do it now? He says, yes, I can do it now. I'm wearing my running shoes. I'm wearing comfortable pants. I could do it right now. And this man took a couple of steps back. And the rabbi said, stop, why are you going back? He goes, I need to go back to propel myself to move forward and up. That's the answer. Sometimes I need to move back in order to move forward. Now, my husband says it brilliantly because he had such a struggle with me. I was racing forward and he was lagging behind, and he didn't want any part of this, and he didn't want to do tshuva, and he didn't want to be an observant man. He wanted to be free, he thought. Free to do whatever he wants, to do it his way. And he says that the only way I was able to move along with my wife and stay married is because when she went up and she saw that I was lagging, she moved back a little, gave me that space to catch up. Because if she would have kept growing and I was back here, we would never have made it as a couple. And he says that that's the secret to moving forward, watching your partner. If they're lagging, take a few steps back. Wait for them. Support them. Teach them if they'll let you. And move forward together. So it's not bad if we move backwards. It's not bad if we slip a little. But don't stay that way. Don't let that happen. Because that's like easy, right? If you're not moving forward, if you're not growing, then you're slipping back automatically. Don't let that happen. But for the purpose of growth, you could take a step back to muster that energy, to have that thrust to move forward. Okay. How do we get Shefa Elokim? How can we get an unlimited godly abundance? That's a good question. Okay. So Rabbi Nachman of Breslov gives us a few tricks, okay? A few pointers so that we can manage, because it's not always easy. So one example is, when we are in trouble, we should read Tehillim 20. And very importantly, Tehillim 20 has 70 words. Okay, 70, remember that number? It's going to be a big number. I'm going to talk about it. Rabbi Nachman also says that when a woman gives birth, the Gemara says that the woman screams out 70 cries as she's birthing. And David HaMelech says in Al Hamayim, it's about bringing into the world a new life, a new awareness, a new understanding. And we take the 10 attributes of God, which are the 10 sfirot, which we've learned together, and we multiply that by the 7 days of the week. That's 7 power, and we get 70. That's why 70 is so important. And we always talk about the 70 nations, right? And there is a pasuk that says that the children of Israel are on the mashber, that's like birthing, and they have no more koach, they have no more energy to complete this birthing process, to bring forth this new life, this birthing. And the stages of conception and the embryonic stage is the potential, and it is the 70 cries of the woman that brings it to actualization. Okay, so let's see. We know that God has 3 major keys. We're told he holds the key to life. Who lives and who shall die. He holds the key to Parnasa. And he holds the key to Techiyat HaMetim at the end of time. Now, when we scream with the understanding that we want to connect to God, we cry out for understanding. We know where we are. And we have something we have to do. And we understand that we want to connect to Hashem. Then Hashem, the Shekhinah, comes down and gives you that understanding. Have we talked about it together? That we have these makifim, like, if you will, they're kind of like circular energies. They're just hovering above our heads. And all we need to do is come to learn and ask God. You know, we say Birkat Torah every day, right? In the morning with our Behaalotecha. Even if we don't have time to do a full prayer, we don't have a chance in the morning before going to work or before our duties, we should still do Behaalotecha. And in there, we make the bracha of learning Torah, knowing that God gives us Torah and information all the time. So when I come to look at the Parasha, if I have a moment, or if not, I come Wednesday night to the Shir at All Shalom, and I learn together, and then I have a problem. I have an issue. I want to solve something in my life, and I come to learn, and I'm wanting God to give me an understanding of how I'm going to get out of this problem that I have, and He'll drop it in my head. And I remember saying this the last time we spoke together. All knowledge comes from God. So that means to say that the scientists, when they discover something, God allowed them to discover it. God put it in their heads. And it's the same thing for us. Whatever we learn and understand and integrate, it's because God gave it to us. So that's why sometimes some people are not ready for something. You know, you're going to walk out of here super excited, and you're going to say, you know what I learned? I learned that the seven candles in the menorah, they represent the 7 openings of the face. And they're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense. That's far-fetched. And you're not going to be able to explain it to them, but you know that you understand it. But you can't explain it. It's something you got. It's another level to teach it, but you got it. You earned it. You attained it. It's your chokhmah now. It's your understanding. Okay. Now, how do we strengthen that connection to getting more chokhmah and da'at and understanding? So, the human mind is like the Kodesh HaKodashim, and that's why it needs to be protected. And it's protected by these 7 apertures, openings in our face. This helps protect us from bad influences or bad things. Let's look at these together for a moment. So our eyes. This is so crucial, ladies. And it affects our husbands and our children and all our loved ones. What we take in through our eyes affects our soul, affects our neshama. If what we do is we're constantly watching what the goyim are doing, how they're dressing, how they're talking, what they're doing, this affects us. So then in the morning, when I come to dress up, I'm thinking, I saw that style on that actress, and she looked awesome. So I guarantee you that didn't include a dress that covered her knees, a top that covered her shoulders, a neckline that covered her bones. It didn't include that. It was a hot red dress with a super low cleavage. Everything was showing, just not the nipples. And the dress might have gone down to the knees, but it had the highest slit. It went right up to between her legs. Can a Jewish woman dress like that? Why? Because when one dresses that way, They are prioritizing their body. The way a Jewish woman dresses is like the queen in the royal family. They don't need to show you cleavage. They know their worth. They don't need to show you their butt. They know what they're worth. So they dress modestly because they understand their value. As Jewish women, we understand our value. Our value is our neshama. Our body houses the neshama, is very important, but I'm not going to want people to look at my body. I want them to look at my eyes and see into my soul, because that's who I am. I'm a soul in a body, not a body housing a soul for the time being. It's a very different way to look at it. That's the eyes. So why did I say it affects our children? Because, let's face it, we're modern. Our kids have phones. Are you watching them 24/7? No. They're alone with their phones. They can see anything they want. They can search anything. And today what's out there is not emphasizing values and dignity and Torah. I mean, I think that we're coming to a stage where even on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, there's a lot of Torah. There's a lot of rabbis. They've never been there before. Now they understand if you're going to get to the youth, if you're going to get to people, if you're going to mass affect people, if you're going to be an influencer, you got to be on the social media because people are in their homes. How many people can you see in your community? 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200? How many people in the community? 1,000? Are they all going to come out to the synagogue? Maybe not. On Yom Kippur, how many people come out? 300? That's the most you're going to influence. One day a year. But if you go on social media, now you're reaching thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people. And if you have a good message and you added some crazy music, hundreds of thousands of people are going to see your message. So, I tell my children, it's not easy. I know you're going to see all sorts of things. I send them things to see, because at least they're going to see something I sent them. And the more they see things I send them, the more of that you're going to see. All you have to do is like that, and then the algorithm will just give you more of that. So if you see anything vile, don't like it, because you'll just get more of that. Hoping that to balance how much bad they see versus how much good. And then another thing is I ask my boys, I'm sure I would ask my girls too, but for my boys it's a little easier, to put their eyes in their Sidurim and in the Torah and look at Hebrew letters and read Hebrew words, because that will wash your eyes out, if you will, metaphorically. Just try to correct some of all that's gone in. We hope. So those are the eyes. What about the ears? What we hear affect us. You know, if you're in a circle of friends and they use bad language, two things happen. You become immune to it, and you think it's normal to talk that way, and then you start using those kind of words, and that affects you. What is that? Let's say we're a little older, so we're not hanging around with people that are cussing and swearing, but maybe we're hanging around people that do a lot of lashon hara. They speak about other people all the time, and not in a very, very good way. So they're busy criticizing other people, putting other people down, talking about other people's husbands, homes, cars, like things that are none of my business. I don't need to hear this. So I need to protect my ears. I need to watch what I'm listening to. It's not just what's on the radio or what's on social media. It's what people are talking to me about. So that's another way that I could protect my soul. And then there's the mouth. So the mouth affects us in two ways. What we eat affects our neshama. That's what comes in and what comes out, how we talk. The choice of words that we use. Am I a positive person or am I always complaining? Oh, the weather's so bad. I don't like my boss. I don't like the secretary. I don't like the lady at the cash. I don't like anybody. Like, I'm always negative. That's horrible. I don't think anybody would want to be my friend or want to be around me because it's like terrible. So I have to watch what I say. And if I want to be a little bit like Aaron, Kohen Gadol, and light people up, then I'm going to find the good in anyone I see. And I'm going to say something wonderful to them. And I'm going to lift them up. And I'm only going to look for the good. And I'm going to be that positive person. That's the power of my mouth. Now the nose. I remember when I first heard the shir, I was thinking, so what does the nose have to do with anything? Can anybody guess? How does the nose play into this protecting of the mind, the Kodesh HaKodeshim, the protecting my soul, and allowing me to get more connection to God and more chokhmah and dat? What does the nose have to do with things?
What you smell.
Okay, what you smell. But let's go deeper.
Where you put your nose.
Yeah, that's sort of related to how your mouth. Good. If you're a nosy person, that's good. That's very good. What else?
To not smell the cologne or perfume
of other people. That's interesting. So that's where you put your nose. Keep your nose, mind your own business. Keep your distance. But you know what it really means? Another part of it, because all of this is valuable. What you shared was valuable. Anger. When you're angry, you know that? And even they say that for God, like, I forgot the Hebrew line, but it's like, so like, when you're angry at your kids and you want to be like, so we have to watch our anger.
Isn't it also like when you do Havdalah and you're selling?
So that's a different thing, and I'm going to tell you that's the other side of it, okay? So the side of watching and protecting and guarding your nostrils is mind your own business, keep your distance, and don't be angry. Because where there's anger, God goes away. He leaves you, right? Where there's sadness, God goes away. Like Yaakov Avinu, at his deathbed, he almost revealed to his children, the tribes, when Mashiach was going to come, what was going to happen. And then God just took that away from him because it wasn't time to reveal. And during the years where he thought that Yosef was dead, he was so sad. He didn't stop being sad. And God just took all the nevuah away from him. Because people ask, he was such a tzaddik. He couldn't sense that his son was alive. He was in Egypt. He couldn't sense that? No, because he was so in his sorrow. He didn't accept it. That he lost his connection to receive the da'at, the chokhmah, the nevuah that we can get. So it's very important not to be angry. It's hard, but you have to understand that everything that happens, God wanted to happen. As hard as that can be. And all I can do is step back and evaluate. How am I going to behave now in face of this difficulty? Am I going to remember to prioritize my soul? To remember my connection with God? What does God want from me at this difficult moment? How am I supposed to handle it? And if I think that way, and I ask myself that way, then I invite more understanding and more knowledge. And I can and should cry out if it's too hard for me. Rabbi Nachman says, have that conversation with God. I don't understand why you gave me this tza'al, this pain. Help me through this. And in the crying, you connect, you open that channel to receive understanding, to receive da'at of your situation. Because God wants to help you. Just have to open the channel. Turn on that switch. Light yourself up. Interestingly enough, mourners sit Shiva, that number 7. They do kriya, they rip their clothing. It's the word ka'a, kuf resh ayin, has the gematria of 370, which is 2 times panim, the face, which is 2 times 185. And that equals 370. Interestingly, following a chuppah, we see during a chuppah, we see the walking of the kala 7 times around the chatan. 7. And the couple has sheva berachot, 7 seudot, where we bless the couple. So, in our Torah, in our halachot, in our practices, all our avoda is to connect to Hashem and live a oneness, an understanding that there is a God running the whole world, and Hashem rewards us for what we're doing. We're not living a meaningless, purposeless life. We're living a meaningful, purposeful life with this greater understanding. If I don't see the whole picture, sometimes life is very difficult and very hard to manage. But we want to keep growing because we're coming to big times, big changes. It's difficult what we're going to go through. It might not be in our lifetime, but it'll definitely be in the lifetime of our children. And we need to be prepared. And my father told me something so brilliant today that he learned at his synagogue today. The person who doesn't believe will not merit everything that we're learning. The person who does not believe in Tchiyat HaMetim will simply not merit to be resurrected from the dead. That is scary. That is scary. So I don't have to understand everything. I have to have emunah. I have to believe. And if I want to challenge myself because I want to understand, because I don't want to just have a plain emunah, I want to understand. Men are more like that than women, but some women are like that too. It's got to be logical. I need to see the science behind it. Show me how it adds up. I don't believe you. Then pray for some understanding. Pray for it. Because with more dat, we are changed. The more I learn, the more I change. Like people ask me, because they knew me many years ago, and they say, this doesn't match. It's not the same Sigy I knew in high school or when she was 20. This is quite different. The only thing that changed me was the fact that I started learning. The fact that I wanted to connect more to God. The fact that I had difficulties in my life. In my difficulties, I turned to God. I cried out. And He brought me answers. And the areas that I could not do anything about, He brought people to solve those things. That's why I told my friend as I drove here, I just pray on it. Because I know my limitations. I am a limited being, but God is unlimited. When I tap into the unlimited, I will get unlimited results. That's how I get shefa and abundance in everything. And we can use this for everything. I want more parnasa. We talked about God having that key. Let's make a deal. I want to make a deal with God. If I take on another mitzvah, please, 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 I cry out, give me more parnasa. I need it. I have to take care of my children. I need it. Try it. Women used to come to me along the years as I was teaching, and they would say to me, I can't make ends at the end of the week. I'm always short. It's so upsetting. I don't know what to do. I'm at my wit's end. And I would ask them simple questions. Do you keep Shabbat? And they look at me like, what are you, crazy? I don't. I said, okay, but I'm trying to teach you that Mekor Kol HaBerachot is Shabbat. Shabbat is the address, the essence, the core of all the blessings that we're going to get. Maybe you want to start trying to keep Shabbat and go slow. Do it the way you can. Maybe Friday night, come to light the candles before the lighting time, just so that you're safe. Start that way. Have a meal that night. Start. And slowly you'll build up, and maybe you can keep Saturday too. But you got to make a move. Many people will tell you, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That doesn't work. That's scientific for you. It doesn't work. You have to change something in the equation if you want a different result. Another area that I tell the women who ask me how to get more parnasa is tzedakah. You have to be a giver. If you want to receive, you have to be a giver. And I always tell this beautiful little story, and I know I've told you, sorry, indulge me for those who hear it for the first time, about the old woman who was at the corner street begging, and she had her basket there. And it was Friday, early morning, and she was trying to get money in order to make her Shabbat. And people would pass, and some people gave her some money, and they put money in her basket. And after a few hours, she had enough money in her basket that she was able to go and buy provisions. And as she turned the block, she saw an old man sitting with his hat open. And you know what she did? Poor as she was, she looked into her basket, she made a quick calculation, and she took some out and gave it to the old man. That's tzedakah. Tzedakah means justice. It doesn't mean charity. It's not that I'm a charitable person, that I'm giving my money away. That's what God asks us to do. And it's acknowledging that nothing that I have belongs solely to me. Everything that I have, God gave me. What's that famous story that the queen came to Mr. Rothschild and she asked him, "What, Sir Rothschild, what are you worth?" And he said, "I'll calculate and come back with the answer." And the following morning he came to the queen and he gave her a number. And she looked at him quite cynically and she said, "Lord Rothschild, this is not your worth. You are worth much more than this. Are you mocking me?" And his answer was, "No, Your Majesty. This is what I have given away in charitable donations. That's the only thing that belongs to me. Everything else can be taken away from me, can be lost, does not belong to me." That's exactly this whole world. The only thing that we have, that we could say that we've acquired, that belongs to us, is our mitzvot. And the Torah that we've learned, and in the mitzvot is included the tzedakah that we gave. That's all that we're worth. And my father very nicely reminded me again today. I love it when I see him in the middle of the week. I see him over Shabbat and we always exchange a lot of Torah, Baruch Hashem. And he said to me, my dear daughter, everything that we're ever going to have, we can only do right here, right now. And the moment we pass, you cannot add any more mitzvot. And that's how you're going to remain in the next world. So that's the stress or the anxiety that some of us might feel. Can I do enough in a day? Can I help enough in a day? Can I add enough mitzvot? Can I affect people in a positive way enough this day? Because who knows? Does anybody know when they're passing? No, we don't have that knowledge. Luckily, we don't have that knowledge. But we have to live every day meaningfully, purposefully, with the understanding that this is a corridor to the next world. This world is timed, the next world is forever. So all we can do is remember the lessons of this Parsha. And before I finish off, I must show you a beautiful depiction that Rabbi David Menashe shared with us to prove, because he was so scientifically inclined, to prove that the menorah is in each and every human being. And I'm going to share with you this. I'll send it around. You could look at it. The menorah is actually in our bodies, and it is connected to the meridians of the body, and it includes the 7 attributes, and it is so deeply rooted, it would take a very long time to study this, but just look how beautiful it is, so that you could see that the menorah is actually in each and every Jew. And if we remember how I started with the Baal Shem Tov, knowing that every Jew has that connection to God, and all we need is to turn that switch on with a good word, a kind word, light them up, and help them make that wonderful connection and fulfill their mission. I thank you very much for your attention. I'll take questions, but I'll turn off the recording so you could ask freely. Thank you so much. As an addendum, I'd like to share with you as well that Tehillim 67 is Lamnatseach bin Ginot Mizmor Shir, and in the Sidurim, I know for sure in the Sephardi Sidurim, it's depicted as the menorah, and it has the 7 candelabras, the 7 candles, as traditionally so. And it is stated that when you read this certain amount of times a day, it lights up your neshama and allows for protection and for a conduit to receive a greater connection. And I would like to add the story, the experience I had with one of my gem sister, Alea Shalom. This should be for Leilu Nishmat Michal Nechama Bat Shmirayahu Israel Zichona Livracha. I was away, and she was not well. She was in hospice in Maimonides. No, at the what was that hospital across the street from Le Versailles? Mount Sinai. Thank you. And I communicated with her on Facebook, and she asked me, "Are you here?" I said, "No, I'm not." She goes, "I'd like to see you." And I was in Florida, and I was supposed to come back. So I told her when I was coming back. I told her the day I was coming back. And that day, the weirdest thing happened to me. This never happened to me before. I'm getting ready to get on the flight, and I only had a hand luggage. And I wanted, that was the only flight of the day. And I get to the gate, and they're giving me trouble at the gate that my hand luggage is not appropriate, it's too big. And I'm not looking at her, and I go, "What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with my luggage." And I never have a negative interaction with people, and this lady was bothering me because I had this sense of urgency. I needed to get on that plane. I had to get to Montreal. And I don't know why I had this feeling inside, and I don't know why this unpleasant woman was in front of me. And she's giving me all these stories and whatnot, and she goes, "Lady, another 2 words from you and you're not getting on the plane." And then there was this officer all of a sudden by the gate. And I'm thinking, okay, Sigalit, there's something going on here. This is like an out-of-body experience. Just let go. Let her take it. Take out whatever's valuable from the bag and keep it with you and let her take it. Because you're not going to miss this flight. So I give her the bag. And I'm like thinking in my head, this is like unbelievable. I've traveled with this bag. It's the right size. I don't understand what's going on. And the flight is a little bit delayed. And I'm thinking, my goodness, the flight is delayed. I don't understand. And I go, and then I have to wait for the luggage because now I don't have a handbag. I wanted to get out fast and go straight to Mount Sinai to see Marlene. And I didn't make it. And I had to give a class. I was teaching. And I'm thinking to myself, can I possibly make it? Can I possibly? Okay, I'll go right after. I give my class here, and I ran out that day. And again, the weirdest thing, the roads are blocked. They're constructing. I had to do a detour. I'm looking at the times. What time am I going to get to the hospital? Are they going to let me in? I get to the hospital. It's about 11 p.m. I'm thinking they're never going to let me in. I walk in, the guard is there, nice man, first nice individual of the day. And I said to him, "Good evening. I'm so sorry. I must visit a friend of mine. She's not well. I don't know how much longer she has." He says to me, "What room?" I gave him the room. He says, "Go ahead. Go up." I go up, and her brother was there. And I asked him, "How's she doing?" He says, "It doesn't look very good." I came near her, and I started talking to her. And I talked to him about our trip together to Israel and everything that we did together. And I said to him, "Excuse me, may I read a few Tehillim?" He says, "Yes, of course." I said, "Okay." And he was so decent. He put on his baseball hat. And not a religious man, but just very decent. And I started reading the Tehillim. And I read a lot of them. And just before leaving, I read Lamnatseach in the form of the menorah. And after I finished reading, I looked up at her. And I felt that there was a change. And I moved closer. And I realized she stopped breathing at that moment. And it was at night. Had I got there earlier, it wasn't her time, because it would have been the other Hebrew date. And when the night comes, it's the next Hebrew date. And a soul leaves at the time that the soul is called back, and not a moment before. And I couldn't believe that I was there at that moment. And had I not gone, who knows what would have happened? And I remember turning to her brother and saying, "Well, maybe we should stay a little longer, like not to leave her." And it was a very crazy moment. And I shared this on Facebook. And a woman who used to study with Marlene, Mrs. Black, she sent me a message and she said, "I would have wanted to be there at that moment for her." And of course, I forgot to tell you that, of course, I said the Shema for her right away at that moment. But it was the first time in my life that I ever experienced someone passing from this world to the next. And it was very powerful. So all to say, and Marlene knew, she knew what had to be done. And with such respect for her choices, she was not living an Orthodox life all her life. And she knew that her family would not be able to do what it takes. And she made sure to pay to have someone say Kaddish for her the whole year. And she made sure to be buried in, I forgot the cemetery where the Hasidim bury themselves, very, very far. And she had a simple wooden coffin with a very thin bottom, just the way it's supposed to be. And the only reason why this came to me to share with you is she understood the bigger picture. She got it. And it's so powerful. So if you walk away today, take something on, do something, make a change. You can't keep coming to these classes and not make a change. You must make a change. We're all going to meet our Maker. We're all going to stand in judgment. We're all going to have to say, give din and cheshbon. What did we do with the years that were allotted to us in this lifetime? And you can't say, I didn't know. Because they're going to remind you came to Sigalit's classes. And then we're going to be in trouble. You and me. Okay. Wish you all a good rest of the week and a wonderful Shabbat Shalom.